Hey everyone, welcome to Sweet Tea and Lemonade, a place where sister friends come together to serve up the tea and slice up life's lemons with love, laughter, and lots of lessons learned. I'm Tiffany and this is Khiela, and we were talking about 2023 and decided to jump on live to share some of our thoughts about what we learned from 2022 and really what we've learned from 2020 to 2022. And
Right.
and how we're taking those lessons from that period of time into bettering ourselves in 2023. So Kyla, why don't we just jump in? I know you have lots to say about these lessons learned.
Yeah, man. Tiffany, you know me. We're just having a conversation. And anytime we talk, one of the things I say is that I'm learning to be my authentic self. I guess I can share this. I turned 40. When was that, Tiffany? When did I turn 40? It was 2021 when I turned 40. Can we believe that? Right. So I
Wow.
turned 40 and I said, going into chapter 40, I of course learned about myself in my 20s and 30s, but one of the things I don't know that I fully did was being my authentic self. So I've learned a lot in 2021 and 2022 about what that means, what that looks like. And I'm just one of my things I want to take that in 2023. I have more specifics with that, but I think that's where I am, is like enhancing that, taking that to the next level, being my authentic me.
You can't leave us with just that. Like what did you learn about being your authentic self? And what did that look like? I mean, you gotta tell us more.
So you gotta say a little bit more. Think one thing is, and help me out, because I know Tiffany, you help me out in making it, kind of making it clear. So, help me make it clear. But like, I feel like what I didn't do, what was inauthentic. So I guess it's at that one. Like, how was I moving that was inauthentic? And I think I wasn't fully knowing how to bring all of who I am into the spaces that I'm in, right? So for me, like, my faith is important to me. My professional life is important to me. Like, who I am, my Blackness is important to me. So all these different parts of who I am, how I move in romantic relationships is important to me. And it's like I was keeping all of that separate, right? And it's like, okay, like, let me be in the truth of what that all means to me and kind of bring that in. So for example, with my professional life, to the degree that it's appropriate and makes sense, like, bring in my faith into that, bring in my Blackness into that in a way that works for me, and not allowing fear to hold me back from bringing that into spaces. So yeah, I think I know that's still kind of general in some ways, but like, I had to first at least wrap my mind around that is what is happening. And I am not, and so for me, that caused anxiety. For me, because to me, being authentic is important. And I think when I wasn't, and keeping all of that, I mean, compartmentalizing things can be helpful and healthy at times, but I think I was doing it too much. And I wasn't like integrating all of who I am in all spaces. And honestly, that caused anxiety and caused fear. And yeah, it kind of probably held me back in some ways.
That's interesting when you said like when you're not being your true authentic self, that was causing you anxiety. And it's because you're trying to keep that mask on and make sure that people only saw what they needed to see, because they couldn't handle these other pieces of you. So I got to make sure you only see this part. And then,
Mhm.
you feel you're most free and you're most authentic when you're just being yourself. And that's when you can really take that deep breath. And that's when you can really just relax into it. So I can see how not being your authentic self causes you to be more tense and more anxious, trying to keep that facade up in some ways.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's absolutely what was happening. So I'm like, going into 2023 is like just being more thoughtful about that. And I don't know exactly how this gonna look like every moment of every day, but I think just being mindful that, that I'm not gonna hold back, still of course have appropriate boundaries, whereas I also believe in boundaries and that kind of thing. But I think where it's appropriate to kind of say, still bring myself into it so I can relax, and that'll decrease anxiety, and then, just be in the moment and flow in a way that I think serves me well. And since my faith is important to me, and give God glory. That's been my prayer, that it be for my good and the good of those in my space, and it gives God glory. to do that authentically.
You so churchy. Only churchy people
You were gonna say that.
You so churchy. That's
God glory in 2023. Let's give God glory.
Yourself is churchy. That is who you are.
I embrace it. As one of my friends say, I just got to be in the truth of it. She always talks about being in the truth of things. So I just got to be in the truth of that. And like, all right, well, if that's what it is, then I guess I'm churchy. Yeah. What's 2023 looking like for you? Like,
I don't know. Let me tell you. I learned a lot of lessons 2020 through 2022. I learned a lot of stuff. I did learn about being authentic and not being so afraid that people couldn't handle all of me, or that I was gonna be too much for a space. So I had to like quiet it down or box it in so that I'm not too much. And so I think 2023 comes with me embracing all the aspects of myself and reminding myself that whatever I bring to the table is not too much. It's just enough. Really embracing and acknowledging the good. I think that sometimes I've normalized the struggle. I had friends ask me, what were the things that you were most proud of in 2022? And I couldn't think of things. I could only think of the stuff that I was making it through, the things that I survived and the thing, I made it through, but not like the times when I was actually killing it. And I had to sit down and say, like, were there moments in 2022 when I felt like I was killing it? And I was, when this happened, I was, but allowing myself to see those moments and to celebrate those moments when I was getting it right, and not just focus on the moments where I felt like I wasn't quite getting it right.
Okay.
And then with that, I realized that I am often the hardest person on me. I'm my biggest critic. And so part of the reason that I couldn't see those moments when I was getting it right is because I was looking at those moments through that eye of what could be better. Actually, is this excellent? Is this as good as somebody else? Should you have been doing more? And really just allowing myself to rest and say that, whatever I'm giving to this, I mean, of course, there are times when you say, okay, you're not doing what you need to be doing. But in the moments when you really are giving it your best, to acknowledge that and to accept it and embrace it and celebrate that, you're giving it all, and to quiet that critic that won't let you do that.
Yeah, because that inner critic can be a beast. It's something good though, because it was like, I think sometimes we miss that. Sometimes when people are trying to go into a new year and do more and do better, sometimes it's like it can be real action oriented, which can be good. I'm gonna do this, and do this. But like the issue is if we come to it where we're still seeing our life through that same lens, our actions are probably gonna be the same, right? So because you said you were seeing it through the lens of what could be better. What were you saying? You were like, okay, this could be better. This is what I did that I could have done better, or I didn't do as well as what I wanted to do. So if that's the lens, then that's gonna dictate the focus. So I wonder if it's hard to change actions and change what we do if our lens is still the same, if we still looking through the same lens.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I told someone today is like, there's nothing magical about January 1st. January 1st, the calendar doesn't turn the page and you just be like, woo, I'm ready to be brand new. Like we make these resolutions and these goals, but it comes with, work and action plan. And that comes with changing your perspective on some things. And so, I think you're absolutely right. Like, how can you change courses if you haven't really honed in on your vision of what that's going to look like and what those things are going to be? And so, as I'm trying to do more resting and not so much pushing myself to be, perfect in these different areas, it is requiring a lot of inner work. It is requiring me to take a lot of pauses and deep breaths and say, okay, is this is this okay? Is this really okay? Did you do a good job here? Or is it that you need to be pushing yourself and allowing myself, you know what, you did a good job. And it's okay. It's okay to leave it here and walk away and do something else.
Yeah, man, I bet that takes some energy probably on the front end. That's like for real energy.
Exhausted.
So what does it mean when we talk talk about celebrating the success, because it's like after we've done that, as we're doing the inner work, not after, because it's a continual process. So as we're doing the inner work, and as we're like kind of doing that reflecting and trying to notice, like, okay, that I'm going to change my lens, and on the lens to focus on and celebrate the successes, no matter how little, celebrate the successes. Like, what does that celebration look like? Like, how do you celebrate successes?
You know what? I'm probably gonna have to relearn that because I don't know if I've been doing it up to
Okay.
now. I have celebrated the big things.
Mm-hmm.
You get to the monumental thing, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
woo, yes, you did it. But the small everyday steps that it takes to get there, how do we celebrate it? And sometimes I think for me, it's going to come in with me just acknowledging that was a win.
Yeah.
Um, Acknowledging that you took that step and that was a positive step forward. And
Yeah.
not just glossing over it and move, because you didn't get the whole chunk done, just
Mm-hmm.
glossing over the steps that you made.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it doesn't mean celebrate. It doesn't mean that I'm necessarily going to throw a party or I'm going to take a trip every time something happens. But sometimes it's going to mean that at the end of the day, when I say, what am I grateful for? It's going to be, I'm grateful that I took 2 steps towards the goal I wanted to take. I'm grateful that I stayed steady. In 2022, some of the things I'm just grateful that I kept things maintained and that did not me being slipped, because it could have been very slippery slope, but I
Mm-hmm.
maintained. So sometimes just acknowledging that, okay, this wasn't a year of these big monumental things. It was the year that I maintained some stuff and then slipped, and that's a win.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a win. Yeah. I like how you said it can just be an acknowledgement. It can be an internal acknowledgement. And it doesn't mean maybe sharing it with somebody that we really trust and share those type of things with. But I like that, like at the end of the day, because I try to do that as well. Like I know some people do gratitude journals, but like whatever works for people, like sometimes I usually either in a kind of prayer format or just like internally in my mind, just grateful, like even like you say, kind of got through the day and was able to accomplish something that's a step in the direction of a larger goal, even if everything wasn't accomplished. Like, that's okay, we made some measure of progress, we're still committed to it, and we're still striving towards what we want to do. Yeah. I like it. I like it. Yeah, I like it. So I'm gonna try to keep that in mind. How can I celebrate successes, and kind of keep me going? I know one of the things I'm doing, I just gotta share this, Tiffany. This is one thing that's helping me with 2023. I know we ain't on here like advertising for folks and stuff like that, but Oprah got her little list of stuff that she has out there. I know you might not be able to see it, but it's Oprah's The Life You Want Planner. And I'm gonna tell you, when I saw that, I like planners anyway, just in general. Like, I know you're like, yes, all of that makes sense, all of that tracks. I like planners. So I don't like use this. I have another planner that I really use for my everyday to-do list. But like, this is a planner that to me was really helpful, because you use this planner to help with just kind of like creating a vision board, creating focus, setting intentions. So that kind of stuff helps me to, like, in the beginning of the day or week, is to set my intentions, and then at the end of the day to celebrate, like what you're saying. That kind of fits in that, like for me, like setting intentions in the beginning of the day or week, and then at the end of the day or week, then celebrating whatever progress that was
Ooh,
able to be made.
question, because
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of people talking about, I'm not setting resolutions, I'm not setting goals, but I'm setting intentions. And so what is
Okay.
the difference between like goals and intentions, and what does that mean for you?
That's a good point. So I don't know, like, I think it's a little bit of philosophical, and people have their own definition. So like for me, I'm just gonna say this can align with goals. Sometimes the words are interchangeable. So, but I think for me, when I say intentions, it may be something that's more value based, to be honest, because goals to me in my mind is more task oriented, and it's goals that maybe work on this with a project or get these emails sent or that kind of thing. Like, to me, for me, if I'm saying intentions, I'm not necessarily talking about that. That's a to-do list, and those are very short-term, kind of concrete goals that I have that are task or action oriented. like to me, intentions are saying like they are like aligned, and my goals are too, but they are aligned with my values. So if I'm saying that, like in this book, she had you kind of go through, whoever wrote it had you kind of go through and think about like different areas of life that I feel like align with self-care, like connection or being fully present in a moment, forgiveness, gratitude, reflection, right? And kind of looking at areas, values, and what's important to me, and saying, okay, now these are my values that are important to me. I'm going to set an intention for today about striving to focus on this. So it's like, I'm going to strive to be more fully present throughout the day. So if I have anything that I'm focusing on, whatever it is that I'm doing, work related, social connections, whatever, that I'm going to strive to be kind to myself today. I'm going to strive to be in the moment and to enjoy, even honestly, if I'm not enjoying it technically, but I am being fully in the moment and connected with the moment, right? And for me, when I'm more fully present in the moment, that helps to decrease anxiety because I'm not thinking about what if this, what's happening next, right? So to me, my intentions tend to be more tightly connected with probably more abstract kind of values and just ways that I want to be towards myself and other people. They're not necessarily a task. It may be a goal, a specific concrete goal associated with it. Like if it's kindness or something, it may be connected to like, I'm going to send somebody a text to let them know I really appreciate their friendship or something like that. It may have something concrete attached to it, but it's more, I don't know if that makes sense, but it's more, a little more abstract and just something I'll strive to kind of have my mind on and focus my mental energy throughout the day.
That makes sense. So I think, sometimes when people say, I'm today, my intention is to be productive and, and lead with productivity or lead with wisdom in my dealings with other people. And then your to-do list may be how you're going to achieve that overall
Right.
intention. Okay.
Yeah. And people gotta find what works for them, because that's the thing. People gonna have different words, different ways to frame it, and that's fine. I just think my thought is just as I go into 2023 is to just have some values and some ideas that these I'm inspiring to do it, and this little book kind of helped me with it and let me know my thing is being what I want to work on, that the areas when I kind of rated myself, they have you rate yourself, and I was needed a little more work in, or I wasn't as satisfied with how present I am. What was the other one? And just how much joy I experienced, maybe that's what it was. And it was something that I was reading that talking about practicing the skill of joy and finding joy. So those to me were just, it's like, okay, I'm going to be more mindful of that. But yes, more concretely, when it's a goal, something specific for this day and this week, if it's something I need to do that would help to promote that, then sure, yeah, I could do that.
I like that. I think I'm going to use that because one of my other things for 2023 is rest.
Mm.
And I heard you talking about like reflection and all that. And I think one of the things that we sometimes do is we go from thing to thing to thing and we don't reflect and we don't
Yeah.
rest. And
Mm-hmm.
and rest not just meaning like take a nap or go to sleep. Like rest sometimes just means like disconnecting, taking a few minutes
Mm-hmm.
to breathe, those type of things. And I typically take my time off at the end of the year. So people
Mm-hmm.
know that, like the holidays, I take my time off, and
Yes, you do.
I put boundaries around it. And I'm real like that's sacred time.
Right.
I realized the last few years, by the time I get to the end of the year, I'm
Yeah.
completely burnt out. Like I have hit a wall, and you're not getting nothing from me. Like
Okay.
you're not getting nothing from me friend wise. You're not getting nothing from me work wise. Like you are just not getting it because I
Mm-hmm.
don't have it to give. And I
Mm-hmm.
just, I said, I don't want to end 2023 being completely burnt out. And so what
Okay.
does that mean? That means that I have to be intentional about weaving rest throughout not just my year, but throughout each day, and learning to say, no, I don't need to be on that project, or no, I don't need to be in this meeting. No, I
Mm-hmm.
don't need to work on this right now. I'm okay if I'm not, part of all these different groups, and being very intentional about saying, I need to sit down. I,
Mm-hmm.
I need to, I need to listen to some music. I need to take a walk. I need to disconnect from
Yes.
life right now and being okay with that and not feeling like
Yes.
I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So when I heard that word reflection, it brought up to me like, this is the thing that my intention is to, not just find joy, but find peace and find rest
Yeah.
in
Yes.
every day.
Mm-hmm.
Just because like I can't keep burning myself out and taking a break and recharging and then draining your battery completely again.
Mm-hmm. Like you want to live your life in a paced way, where you're pacing
Yes.
it, where it's not like going through all the way up, burnt out, and then now it's this, doing it again, then burnt out. Like, yeah, like just pacing it. Yeah.
And I feel like the last 3 years, and for sure, it's been kind of like go, 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 then drop.
Mm-hmm.
Get back up, and sometimes you don't even get back up to 100. Like you get up to 50, and then it's go, 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 and then you drop. And I was like, I want to be a little bit more intentional about rest.
I love it. Being intentional about rest. Yeah, I'm gonna do a little kind of therapist like question. If we can shift into that, I know. But see, part of what we're doing here is also elevating the conversation about mental health and mental health treatment, so people will know kind of what that looks like. So here's sometimes, but in some ways, it's just therapeutic. This doesn't just happen in therapy, but because I do this with myself, but I also do this with the people that I work with, is when people do identify a goal, something that they desire, that they want to strive for. Sometimes, and that could be wonderful. And I think that's the first step. But see, sometimes what happens, and I think this is why people move from resolutions to goals to intention, is because it is like people are realizing you said something, but the execution is something in between the knowing and the doing.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened between the knowing and the doing? And I wonder if then people have to dig deeper into like what really is going to be required for me really to be able to execute this. So my question to you is like, when you're talking about pacing yourself, how would you know when it's like, okay, if I go a little bit more, this is going to be what I did last year. So this is like, what's the indicator that now I'm at the point when it's the signal, boom, 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 gonna go off to say, I need to just sit. What is that?
So for me, when I get overwhelmed, I know then that I'm at a point where I need to pull back. And me being overwhelmed, most of the time I'm overwhelmed at work.
Okay.
If I'm overwhelmed at work, I am like, can't even focus. I'm doing like 10 things at a time. I'm writing an email, I'm writing a note, I'm looking up something. I got 18 tabs open on the computer. When I see myself like that, when my car is filled with stuff, when there's like stuff everywhere, like shoes, coat, because I've literally been getting dressed in my car to get to work,
Going to the next thing.
Yeah, or I'm going to the next thing and I'm getting dressed in my car. If my house looks a complete, like in disarray, it's usually because I am overwhelmed and I've taken on too much. And I have identified those as being those notifications that, okay, you're taking on too much. And so those are my keys. It's like the first symptoms that I see when I look at my car and I'm like, now right now my car is messed because I just ain't cleaned it up yet. But like once I get it cleaned up, if it fills back up again, I'm gonna know, okay, that's the first symptom that I need to start pulling back.
Okay.
Me being in the office and just like, I got so much to do, but I don't know where to start. That for me, that symptom. And then, try, those are like the red flag symptoms for me. And so now I have to do the work to, what are those yellow?
Exactly.
That'll get me right before I get overwhelmed. Like, where am I at?
Yeah, so, that point before you're overwhelmed. That's right.
So, and I haven't quite figured out what that point is.
Okay.
It may be when I just come home and go straight to bed. There are some days where like I drive in my car and everything from the day is still in the car. All I take with me is my phone and my keys in the house, and I am in the bed. Do not pass go, this nothing happens. And so that may be one of those like yellow, like, okay, something's going on. But I have to do more work at recognizing those but last year was probably the first time I recognized this pattern of the red ones. And I was like, oh, okay. It happened right before I get to the point to where like I'm at a wall. I can't do nothing.
Right. Yeah, that's good. So recognizing those red flags, because sometimes people don't realize that they all right. Is because sometimes people say they're all from 0 to 100. It's like, but did you, sometimes it's quick, but it's like if 100 is like absolutely overwhelmed, it's like that is notice it at 50. Like not just the red flag where now because it can take a lot to rein back in from now we're at a red flag because that takes more recovery time. But if you're at the yellow, then it's like you can recover, get back in the green, and that's pacing yourself a bit better. Yeah, yeah. That's maybe the key. That's good. I think for me, like I feel it if I'm getting to a place where I know it's gonna take me a long time to rein back in from. Like for me, sometimes I start to feel it physically. Like I notice if I'm starting to tense up, like tense my jaws or feel tension in my shoulder, or sometimes that I get to twitching right here. At least I don't know that happens with me, and I can tell this from stress. It's like, okay, something is happening. Oh, it has been happening for a while that maybe has gone unaddressed.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, there's like, so people have to know those different signs. Yeah, yeah.
And then once you get the signs, I think you got to talk about what those root causes are. What are those things that
Yeah,
lead
that's key.
to keep
Mhm,
taking on more than I can handle? What are those
mhm.
things that make me not take rest like I should? And a lot of people will look at me, they be like, girl, you do a good job of self-care because they see me say I'm off and I'm not taking emails. But it's like, what are the things that make me have to do that? Like, why do I
Yeah.
have to get to that point to where I say I need a complete break? Why am I taking on and understanding those root causes so that you can start
Yeah.
addressing those
Mhm.
and really being intentional about when you see that come up and that thought come back in your head that you're able to capture it and say, no, this is what gets me in trouble. This is what gets me overwhelmed. I don't want to
Mhm.
be that in 2023. So I need to address why I feel a certain way about this.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. See, that's that inner work that you were saying earlier, because that's a deeper and deeper dive, right? That's
Oh,
deeper. That's yeah,
and it's that exhausting work that you do need to take breaks from. It's like, because
yeah.
you're capturing, you're really thinking about what you're thinking. And
Mhm. That
you know,
metacognition there.
yeah,
Yeah.
every day you're
Mhm.
thinking about what are you thinking? What am I thinking? Why am
Mhm.
I thinking this? Where does this
Mhm.
come from? And then capturing it and replacing it with a healthier thought or
Mhm.
a more helpful thought for you in this moment.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that takes some work to really capture these thoughts that you've had for years.
For years, and I think that could be the real inner work, because I think once you see all those indicators, like these are the signs and indicators that I'm going to get to a place where I'm overwhelmed, I'm stressed, I'm burnt out, I'm overworked, whatever it is I'm doing, I'm having some same pattern in some relationship, whatever it is, it gets us to a point where it's hard for us to function in the way we want to function, and then see, I like how you say the yellow flag, but then it's like, I think when we really get to see the root causes, then I think we can maybe even stay in the green more often and longer. I think it's unrealistic that we're going to be there all the time, 24/7. But I do think if the goal is to kind of stay, because when we're in that green, I think we're more open, we're more creative, we can walk in our gifts, we're being more authentic, we feel good physically, spiritually, emotionally, we feel more whole and we feel ready for even when things kind of come out of nowhere that kind of pushes us into the yellow, we're more prepared and equipped to handle that and can kind of more easily get ourselves back in that green kind of space. So yeah, for me, I know I need to eat. I need to sleep. I know because some people say to me, Tiffany, like 5 and 6 hours of sleep. I mean, I know I used to do that, but it's like I know I can't do that for even probably like 2 or 3 days. I will probably be in the red in that amount of time.
I always talk about the importance of sleep.
Hmm.
It's one of my things. Like, if you want to be healthy, you got to talk about sleep. And
Hmm.
one of the things that I also realized, I used to be that person who could like fly out, at late at night, get somewhere in the morning, fly back, and go from the airport to a meeting, go from the airport to teaching, that kind of stuff. I can't do that anymore. And I had to just be realistic with myself last year. At the end of the year, I had several trips. And because I had things going on at home, I was making it where I was like taking that 6 a.m. flight in the morning. And I don't want to be up that early. You know how early you have to be at the airport to be on a plane at 6. I don't want to be up that early.
Yeah,
That, it don't align with my values. And
mm-hmm.
I was catching those flights, and then I was getting home because, you know, in Little Rock, it's about 4 flights that get you back. And it's only, you know,
that's about it.
Those ones that are, you know, you just get you all messed up, and you get back at 10, 11, 12, get delayed. And then I would have a meeting the next morning.
Oh, goodness.
You know, so I'm like, oh, I have to give myself some buffer time so that I can pick up on sleep, so that I don't feel rushed. All of those things, like if I feel rushed, I'm not in that green. If I'm rushed, I am in red. So that I have to hack the night before, because I can't wake up in the morning and have to do all that because, you know, I like my sleep. So I had to figure out how to make these things work. I got to pick out clothes the night before. I got to have everything ready so I don't have to think in the morning. I got to take the trash out the night before so I don't have to get up earlier to get that out. These are all self-care things that allow me to get enough sleep and enough rest, which allows me to function better. Things that I originally wouldn't have thought of, that I was like realizing, oh, girl, you can't travel like that no more. You need all your sleep.
All of it.
7
all of
hours.
it. Yeah, and I'd say uninterrupted sleep, deep sleep, consistent sleep, not waking up all the time and then taking like 30, 40 minutes, an hour to fall back to sleep. No, uninterrupted sleep, not just laying in the bed. Yeah, restful, satisfying sleep. Yeah, all of that. Absolutely, man. I don't know how we used to do it with that. So we encouraging people to get sleep. We encourage people to do what it is they need to do to get to the root of what can help them physically, emotionally, to kind of be able to stay in the green as much as possible. Yeah, going into 2023. So I know that's what I'm gonna do. So my thing for at least for this next week, for as I'm moving throughout the rest of this week, is being fully present, and sleep and eating and all of that help with being able to set these intentions and actually follow through with them.
And I think, you know, I'm also reminding myself that, again, there's nothing magical about the first. And all this inner work doesn't just magically happen because we're in a new year. And so extending myself some grace that I'm going to mess up a few times with these intentions, because I'm undoing some behaviors and patterns that have been, you know, going on for a long time. But as long as I'm still giving my best effort towards reaching them, then I'm doing a good job. So, you know, I had to just say, you know what? I'm not going to set no resolutions and goals about, you know, eating healthy this time, you know, and say I'm going to start and do this really restrictive thing at the first. We're just going to start making better decisions every day. Why? Because that is what is realistic and doable and feasible for me.
And that's the way to do it. That's the way to do it, because otherwise we're just setting ourselves up for failure. So that sounds good. Sounds good. Any other tips? Because the other thing we like to do is leave people with any kind of practical tools and tips. I think we've done some of that, but hopefully people can set goals for them. As we've talked about goals, if people want to look something up, they have SMART goals. So maybe when people even go into it, and they can be aligned with your values or your intentions, however to word that. But you may have to help me out with SMART: specific, measurable. I know it's different words for it. Attainable.
Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound.
Yep. Time bound. Yeah. Absolutely. And then that'll set us up for a little more success with whatever intentions, goals, resolutions, however we're kind of wording it.
And I think my other tip is, you know, sometimes you have to say these things out loud to the people in your village. You have to tell your squad and your village that this is what you're working on. Not so that they can necessarily, like, you know, say, oh, you said you weren't going to do that, but just so that they can be mindful and provide support when they can. So, you know, sometimes I told one of my village friends, say, hey, I'm going to try to be more intentional about rest. And she was like, oh, I really support that for you. And, you know, she's already talking about, well, you know, you taking this on. You're right. Let's take this off the plate. So, you know, sometimes you need the village to be there to be supportive. And so sometimes saying it out loud and just, you know, putting some words to it so that your village hears it and can support you is going to be helpful.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, yeah. So that sounds good. So remember, audience, when life serves you lemons, turn it into sweet tea and lemonade. We look forward to seeing you all every first Wednesday. We're gonna try to do that, you all, to come with you. You can tell that a couple of others
Hold
are
us
not here.
accountable.
Yeah, to hold us accountable, to hopefully be before you the first Wednesday of every month, slicing up these lemons and turning it into sweet tea and lemonade. You all enjoy your 2023. We'll see you next month.